Enjoy your voyage. Enjoy your voyage.
We're Retro Groove, and music's our game. What's the show about? It's all in the name. We're a blast from the past with nothing to prove, so get the history lesson when you're hooked on the groove. Hooked on the groove. Alright. We got Adam and Liam, and sometimes a guest. The professors don't mess, so come test the best. All genres, all types, no style we disapprove. So expand your mind and get hooked on the groove. Hooked on the groove. Yo. Hooked on the groove. On the groove. On the groove. On the groove.
Howdy and welcome to Retro Groove. I'm Adam.
And I'm Liam.
And this is a podcast where we talk about music that stands the test of time. Welcome to episode 15 of our second season of Retro Groove. Getting kind of long in the tooth here.
We're getting dug in. This is good stuff.
Got it down to a science now.
Yeah.
We're going to do something a little bit different in terms of our theme today. Those of you in the Retro Groove Discord may have gotten a little bit of a hint this past week. But we're going to high five our top 5 80s cartoon television program theme songs.
Yeah, we initially were like, 80s and 90s, we can lump it all together. And when we threw it out there to everybody, I mean, there was stuff that I had thought of, and then you had thrown out some stuff, and I was like, all right, well, that's, there's a lot more than I thought. And then when the community jumped in, we were like, actually, there's way more
It's
than
too much.
I even thought of. Yeah,
Exactly.
So doing a high five of those 2 decades seemed like, I mean, we would just leave so much on the floor and also very daunting. So
Yes.
we'll do 80s this time, and then tackle the 90s.
Yeah. So this will end up being our first kind of 2-part episode, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. I think clearly with the community response that we got, it's popular enough to do that. So why not give it a go? But before we dive into that, Liam, how are things going in your neck of the woods?
Going pretty good. I got to go to that show, the like Talib Kweli, DMC, Bob James show at the Blue Note. It was very cool. I did get a tip that Bob is going to be doing like a proper trio concert this summer in New York, and so I'm definitely going to go to that. It was very cool. Yeah. He basically got his flowers. Like Talib and DMC brought him up on stage. He played like 4 or 5 songs of like the hour-and-a-half set, but they brought him up on stage, and they were basically like, if y'all don't know, when you hear the term "rock the bells," it's this guy's bells. Like it's the song from his second album, and it's that cowbell that was just sampled and like the kind of beat underneath that. And so it was kind of like a cool little hip hop education moment and a celebration of him. They did Peter Piper, which samples "Take Me to the Mardi Gras," which is Bob's song. So it was a cool experience. I did post up in the Discord that I finally got out to this record store that has really funky limited hours outside the city, and like I found a pocket to run out to it, and I found an album there that like I'd always kind of hoped that I would come across, and it sparked in me this thought, and I think you and I and all of us kind of juggle with this, like, if you collect something, you can just go on eBay and get it, right? Like you can go on Mercari and find it usually at an okay price or whatever, but there's something about coming across the thing in the wild for something you want, right? Not something you need, but something you want, that like it makes it that much more exciting to have the thing. And so I found this Bob James weird import thing that I've just always kind of had my eye on but never pulled the trigger on. And now I've got this list in my phone of things that I've considered buying stuff on eBay, and the thrill of finding something like that discovery makes me just not want to buy things on eBay in general unless I absolutely have to,
Yeah, it's the thrill isn't really there. Like the digging or just finding something mind-blowing in the new arrival section that you weren't expecting to ever see. There's really nothing that compares to that. You can order basically anything online. So it's kind of takes I don't know, it doesn't take all of the fun out of it, but the excitement isn't there.
Yeah, I have that with video games too. I mean, I don't know if you've got like a list of games that you'd love to
absolutely
to hunt down, or you're saving money off to grab or something. But I don't know. For me, like coming across that, like it's why I'll go out to a local record store or video game store when I'm traveling, because you get to dip into another culture's inventory for that moment. And man, finding something like that is it's so exciting.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to flag real quick is March 3rd, we're getting the De La Soul catalog on all streaming services for the first time ever.
Yes.
But we just lost Plug 2 Trugoy, one of the core 3 members. So it's a real bummer. You know, I think about Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest. At this event, they brought up Havoc, but we lost Prodigy from Mobb Deep, and it's just like it reminds me that a lot of these like cut your teeth hip hop cultural, like very important to that culture artists we're losing already. Like it makes me feel like, because I don't know enough De La Soul, you know, I know a bunch of songs. I don't own any of their records. I always mean to, and I never come across them. And so I'm excited to just be able to throw it on in my car or my headphones and listen. But man, like it's crazy to lose these people. Like if I fall head over heels for De La Soul now,
right,
I'm never going to get to see them live.
Yeah,
like
that hurts.
Hurts, you know, that hurts. So everybody check that out when it comes out in March. And just, you know, thinking of that group and what it might mean, because they were on stage. He didn't perform, but they were on stage for part of that Grammy 50th anniversary celebration. The other two guys were up there, and you could kind of tell, like, if he didn't make it for that, and he's had health problems for a while, but if he didn't make it for that, then it was something really serious, because that was such a big moment in hip hop at the Grammys. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. There's a lot of crazy kind of shuffling around right now. Was able to make time to get together with a friend of mine who's a drummer who I, haven't seen in quite some time, well before COVID. Probably haven't seen him in 5 or 6 years, haven't played music together in 10 to 12 years. Kind of around the same time, we both kind of like, I started having kids, he got married. It's just like, and you kind of you're stuck in your own little world for a while. And, I bought a guitar recently, as we've talked about. He was, once he, I shared with him that I bought the guitar, and he was like, all right, well, we need to set something up. And then, Dan got on board because he plays the bass, and he's got a bass and a bass amp and everything. So, and then he brought his brother-in-law, who I'm pretty decent friends with. I just don't see him very often, except for birthday parties and stuff like that. But he plays guitar and used to play in bands and stuff like that. So we just got a rehearsal space and got together and just took 3 hours and just played music. Just something
amazing.
Haven't done in forever.
Yeah.
And felt amazing. We played some Weezer, we played some Beatles, we played some Ramones, we played some Clash. It was just fun. Like, we played one of Dan's originals that he's been writing a lot of songs lately.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah.
It did get filmed. Dan set up a little, it looks like snippets from a Beastie Boys music video, because they put like this fisheye lens type thing on the camera to get like the entire, it's this little practice space type thing. So it's like to get everybody in the shot. But I was like, should we YouTube this? Should we share this? And they're all like, no, this is real rusty. Like,
yeah. Did you know what you were going to play going in? Like, did you guys talk about that?
We kind of did, just because with the rehearsal space, we only had 3 hours.
Yeah, right.
So we kind of, the day before and leading up to it, we're like, well, we should probably at least have something loosely planned. And so we each kind of, all right, well, here's a couple songs. So we had like kind of 8 to 9 songs that we already knew might be fun to try out. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work out so well, but they were all pretty awesome. It was fun. So
it's super fun.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something that we can kind of continue. It's not going to turn into a thing where we're not going to take it on the road or anything. We're just some rusty dads. All 4 of us are dads. So, I think we went with the name Dad Band or, Dad Rock, one of those. We're going to, yeah, just 4 dads that don't have the time to make it a proper band and go out and playing in little bars and stuff. That's not gonna happen. It's just for fun. But it was something that I haven't done in so long that is a part of me that just, it felt really, really good to do that. So,
man, that's awesome. I had always kind of brainstormed doing something like that with Mark Says Hi and 1 or 2 others, and it never happened. We were going to call ourselves the Bag Dads, I think was one of the things, like 2 words. But it never happened. And hearing this, it makes me so happy, dude. That's so fun. Because
it was great.
Like the feeling of being in that space at that time there's nothing else like that when you're making music with somebody.
Yeah. I'll share some of the videos with you, but I'm not going to share it publicly. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I get it.
So we got, before we get into our theme proper, our lovely friend Mike, the ambassador from the Retrologic Discord, has once again given us a game.
The Riddler.
And so for those that may not have caught the first time we did a game that Mike has given us, essentially we're given a song title where it's either a literal interpretation of the song title or it's just kind of it's a song title explained in a different way using different words than are actually in the song title. Last time we struggled a little bit, but eventually found that there was an underlying theme in some hair metal type music. This week, he has given us the topic ahead of time, which will certainly help us.
I hope so. Yeah.
I hope so. Unless he throws us a few curveballs, but either way, it'll be fun. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate the time and effort put into this. So we have 10 songs, and we're going to hear. And I haven't peeked this time. I peeked at the first one last time just to try to figure out what the whole thing was about. So this time we're going in totally blind, and the topic is angsty and energetic female rocker songs is what that's his words. So
man, there's so many. Yeah.
It does narrow it down a bit.
It does help. Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know what his interpretation of that statement means exactly. So we're about to find out. Okay. 10 songs. Let's see how we do. First
Paramore
song.
Sorry, go ahead.
It could be because could be. Okay. First song. A single digit appendage in my clothing satchel.
One hand in my pocket. Alanis Morissette. Hand in my pocket.
A single digit appendage, though? That's not one finger?
Single digit appendage. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be, though. What else would that be?
Say it again.
A single digit appendage in my clothing satchel, but it has to be.
I think it's a digit appendage, but it's just one of them because I think the song is "Hand in My Pocket." Yeah.
All right, it is "Hand in My Pocket" by Alanis Morissette. Good job there. The single digit appendage threw me off. I was thinking like a finger.
Yeah.
And in my clothing satchel. That's funny. All right, so off to a pretty good start.
Okay.
Number 2, Serial Lawbreaker. And that is cereal, Serial, not cereal like breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Serial Lawbreaker.
So criminal.
Fiona Apple?
Oh, because like why would it be cereal? Like,
I don't know. Why would it be a single digit appendage? Well, that's okay. So criminal. What else would it be though? I'm going with criminal myself.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, I feel like the serial of it makes me think that it's got to be there's another qualifier. But
yeah, but I was thinking the same thing about Hand in My Pocket. So I'm ignoring the first word of every single one of these from now on.
Okay. That's
it is dangerous. Criminal by Fiona Apple.
Okay, good call.
So we're thinking too hard about these.
Smart co-host. Got it. Okay, good.
Well, you did it with the first one, so we're doing good. Yeah. So we shouldn't be thinking too hard, it sounds like. Okay. Life-giving body pump of blazed and hardened sand.
I mean, that's got to be Heart of Glass by Blondie.
Has to be. Yeah. Life-giving body pump is clearly a heart. Blazed and hardened sand.
Life-giving body pump.
It is Heart of Glass by Blondie.
Mike. I like this.
That was good. It's fun. Okay. Yeah. All right. Enamored by the sound of a genre popularized in the 50s. That's got to be I Love Rock and Roll.
Enamored? Yeah.
Enamored by the sound of a genre popularized in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the move. Joan Jett.
I Love Rock and Roll, Joan Jett.
Although, as we learned last time, technically Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah.
So this all ties in. This is fantastic. Yeah. And we're talking about Blondie too. So awesome. And we talked about Fiona Apple during our covers episode as well. So this ties in. I'm glad that we waited on this one because he sent me this on December 2nd of last year. So I waited just long enough until it was relevant. Well, we couldn't make it work for the Christmas episode or the end of year episode. So this worked out nicely.
This is good.
Okay. Building block structure by lethargic and slow building block structure. Building block structure. Brick. What's brick by brick? Building block structure by lethargic and slow building block structure.
Oh, it's Brick by Boring Brick, which is a Paramore song. Oh. See, I knew there had to be Paramore.
Is it? No, you're right.
That's a deeper cut, Mike. Now you're making me nervous.
I don't know that song. I'm not a Paramore listener.
You got to do like Sad Institution and its Misery Business. You know, like.
I might have been able to get that one because I think everyone knows that. That's like the Paramore song that everyone knows. But that's awesome. All right. Yeah. Cool. Glad you caught that one because I wouldn't have, and we would have missed one. So we're 5 for 5. Okay. Ooh. Kickflip trick dominating XY chromosome member.
Kickflip trick.
Kickflip trick, which implies a skateboard situation, dominating XY chromosome, which is so I can't think of any other song title with it's got to be Skater Boy, right? What else is what other song references?
No, you're so right.
A skateboard.
You're so right.
XY chromosome is the male chromosome. It is Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne.
I don't know why I couldn't even think of that, but that is
well the kick. I mean, that's a skateboard trick.
It is. I went to like Ollie or whatever. I was just like, Ollie Man? What's the Ollie Man? Yeah, no.
Ollie Man.
Yeah, no, that's a good call.
That's great. Ollie Man.
Ollie Man, the sequel to Skater Boy.
He was a Skater Boy. Now he's an Ollie Man.
He's an Ollie Man, yeah.
All right, 6 for 6. We're killing it. The next song is Brown Recluse Food Trapping Mechanism.
Spiderweb, no doubt. Spiderweb, no doubt. Yeah.
Spiderwebs by No Doubt.
Yeah.
All right, nailed it. I was thinking of spider. Couldn't think of anything spider related, but that
was a good move too. I see what he's doing. Like for those artists, although Avril Lavigne he put right over the plate, but for Paramore and No Doubt, those are the fan cuts. Like those songs they're singles, but like they're not the hits. So I
Gotcha.
see you. I see you, Mike. Okay.
Yeah, and it's better than, Crocus last time. I was like, I don't even know who this is.
Yeah, no, he's got a good balance on this one. I like it.
Yeah, agreed. But we're 7 for 7. Okay. At the very tip of a prime number between 10 and 19. So, what's the prime? 11, 13, and 17?
Isn't it Edge of 17, right?
I
Isn't
don't know.
that Stevie Nicks? No?
I possibly doesn't ring a bell to me, but I'm happy to go with it.
It's Edge of 17 is because
17?
that's what just like the one winged dove sings a song just like you singing. That's Edge of 17.
That is? That
Isn't it? Just like the one winged dove.
I mean, I know the
sings a
song.
Yeah, that's Edge of 17.
No.
I swear it's Edge of 17.
Is it?
It's also sampled in Bootylicious.
My God, you're right. You're 100% right. Why didn't I know that?
Oh, that's
Well, I'm not like the...
because it sounds like it should be called One Winged Dove, but she does say 17. Edge of 17.
That's the name. That's correct. Edge
that
of
the answer?
17. Yeah.
It's got to be. Yeah.
It is.
Tip of a prime number, Mike.
Wow. See, I got hung up on 13. I was trying to think of...
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. All right. Well, I'm glad you saved it on that one. 2 more. Let's see if we
got
can
this.
go 10 for 10.
You already got a B, so I'm good with a B, but let's go for gold.
I'm waiting for the curveball. Is what I'm waiting
that was,
for.
I mean, that was curvy. There's some curviness. Paramore
It
was
missed
a
me
curveball.
entirely.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9. I only feel a rush of serotonin when the clouds release built up condensation. That's only happy when it rains.
Yeah, there's Shirley Manson. Thank you, Mike. She belongs on this list.
She does.
Appreciate it.
Only happy when it rains. Garbage. Good one. We might have to ask him to make it a little bit more difficult next time unless we
No.
get a curveball.
No,
Or
this is good.
This is good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Rapid leg motion toward that raised landmass.
Boy. Mountain, right? Or hill. Running up the hill.
It's got to be.
Running up the
Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush.
Nice.
I don't
Mike,
know that
these
I
were
would call her
perfect.
angsty necessarily, but
Eh.
or angsty and energetic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we did it. 10 for 10.
Yeah. Chef's kiss, Mike. That was perfectly
Chef's
balanced, I think.
Smooch.
Yeah.
Not chef's
Because
kiss.
it really
but
made us thick. Okay.
a smooch by the food preparer with a white hat. I'm trying to play his own game.
Yeah. You do it well.
Great work, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah.
Send us another
Thanks,
one.
dude. Yeah, we'll take another one. That was great.
Love it very, very much. Thank you. All right. So now I'm feeling good, feeling happy.
Yeah. Ready for the main dish.
Main dish. So changing gears. We're talking about cartoon theme songs.
Saturday morning, bowl of cereal. We all did it, right?
Or
you
after
rushed home
school.
from school. Yep. Rush home from school. A lot of nostalgia in just like 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you heard it over and over again. Right?
Yes, you heard it over and over. And it's interesting because there was always like the 30-second version, but each one had like a longer version that you never
Right.
heard.
Right.
So even in preparation for this, like I was hearing the 60 to 90-second versions of these songs that I'd never heard before.
Oh, extended cut.
Yeah.
Sometimes it played during the end credits, right? Like you had
Sometimes.
sometimes, but for the most part, you're right. There was an extended version that just got trimmed down for time.
Usually the end credits had like an instrumental version of the main song.
True.
So, and there's some underlying themes, of course. Usually there's some kind of introduction to some key characters.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them are mostly instrumental except for the name of the show.
Right.
Lots of saxophone.
I mean, we're talking the 80s, right?
But lots of saxophone. There also seems to one other thing that I noticed is there seems to be a pretty high percentage of these songs, because you got to keep the energy going, right? Like it's always high energy. A lot of these songs will have a key change to go up to a slightly higher key halfway or 2/3 of the way through the intro song. I noticed that with quite a few of these. But man, a great, because it just gets you hyped for the show.
Yeah.
It's such an integral part of the cartoon watching experience.
Yeah, it's just beyond a jingle, but it can often have that. And I feel like at some point we should talk jingles on here.
Definitely.
But like it is basically an audio logo or a jingle, but it's a little more meaty and contextual to something. And for some, it becomes like a celebration. Like I definitely remember sitting down and watching He-Man after school, and like you knew the whole intro by heart at one point, but getting to hear it happen is kind of like oh my God, it's happening. Here we go. Let's go. Like you're just ready for an episode of He-Man, you know?
Ready. And sometimes you would even have like a non-song portion of the intro, like especially that reminded me, He-Man reminded me of that, because there's that part in it's like He-Man, like master of the universe, blah blah blah. He holds the secrets of Castle Grayskull. Like there's that whole like before the song starts.
Yeah, it walks you through the whole show. Like here's all the characters, here's what's happening, here's the bad guy. Yeah.
So we've got, obviously we're gonna have some personal favorites.
Right.
But is there anything else like?
Well, so the high five structure is that we have to come to a consensus, just as a reminder, or if anybody's tuning into this for the first time. So we're going to do our collective top 5. Adam and I have not consulted on this.
No, not at all.
Prior, so we're both coming in cold. I would also assume that he and I have some slight criteria bits that may or may not, like we might need to hash some things out in real time here, because there's a handful of things where it was either right on the cusp of the end of the 80s or there was some mitigating factor as to why this theme song was what it was, that like you may have on your list, but I left off for a certain reason, and we'll have to sort through that as well.
Well, I think for me, the only thing that would meet that criteria is The Simpsons, because The Simpsons first aired in December of '89. So it's like it was an 80s show for less than a month. And so to me, that's like you said earlier, that's a 90s show.
It is.
It feels like a 90s show.
But Super Mario Super Show is also a tough one, because that premiered mid 89 and it really only lasted a year. Like I don't even think it went into main syndication. Most people didn't see it until 91. So it's tough. I feel like if that's on your list, like I'm not going to argue it or anything.
You could.
But it is a little kind of tricky, you know?
Yeah.
So I think normally we go with our own 5s working towards a crescendo.
Yep.
But if my 4 is your 2 or vice versa, then we'll just shout it out in the moment and have the conversation there.
Yeah. We'll save time.
Yeah. And then we'll touch upon some others. I think the last caveat or thing to flag here is, like you said, this is heavy nostalgia, heavy, like, bedrock of people's upbringing. Is kind of why we just like ours and everybody who's listening to this, it's just important things that you can't. It's amazing what I remembered the lyrics to as I was going over this, you know.
Absolutely.
And so just like anything else that we do, we're not going to be able to touch on everything here, nor are we trying to. So apologies if we don't get on your favorite thing. You can hit us on Twitter. You can join our Discord. Happy to talk through stuff. There was things that were flagged in Discord that A, I had never heard of, or B, I had completely forgotten about. Yeah. And it blew my mind how much came flooding back when somebody just said 3 words, you know?
Yep.
So with that, I say we dive in. Would you like to start with your number 5?
I'm happy to.
Let's do it.
This is one that I had already kind of started thinking about anyway, but was flagged in the Discord when you mentioned it. And my number 5 is a little show called Silverhawks.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Do you have any recollection of watching Silverhawks? No.
You brought it. Somebody brought it up. You reacted, and I have no clue what this is.
Yeah, it was Solo something. Right. So Solo brought it up in his list, and I actually do remember seeing this show. I had a couple of the action figures. For whatever reason, I loved it. It struck a chord with me. It's a group of characters they're kind of a band, but they also have these like silver metallic aspects to them with like masks that come down and they can fly. And there's like a very sci-fi space aspect to it, but the guitar player has like a cowboy hat for some reason. It's fantastic. So wow. The song itself, is very 80s. A little bit typical of a lot of these 80s theme songs. A little tiny bit hair metal. Definitely has a lot of guitar in it due to the overarching, themes of the show. Does have the key change, so we've got that box checked off. It's just so catchy, and it has this little kind of like metallic sort of synthesized hawk sound that keeps playing.
Well, because there is a hawk. I'm looking at the title screen. There's an actual hawk.
Yeah, it's like a metal hawk. Like that's their like little sidekick character.
Yeah, so you need a metal hawk in the music then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the more like forgotten 80s cartoons, I think. I don't hear a lot of people talking. Like people talk about Transformers, of course, and Smurfs and G.I. Joe and all that stuff. But yes, Silverhawks seems to be kind of one of the forgotten shows, but it's got a special place in my heart. I love it. I'm putting it up there as my number 5. I don't really think it deserves to be higher than that, and I really don't see it making our final high 5. But I had to talk about it because it's one of my personal favorites.
It's worth digging in for sure. I wonder if you can stream this. It seems like one of those weird shows where maybe it's on Hulu or whatever, or Peacock or something. But some of these shows just disappear, and unless you had the VHS tapes, the FHE VHS tapes, you just wouldn't have them ever again.
It's probably one of those that doesn't really hold up either.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be a few things that we talk about here that I have revisited in recent years, and I'm like, why did I like this show? There's one on my list where I'm like, this is the worst show. It's a bad show. It's a dumb show.
Well, a lot of these shows were literally just long-form toy commercials.
Yeah, and they cranked out episodes too. Like when you look at these things, it says like they had 1 season, they had 2 seasons, and they had 70 episodes. Like so they were just churning these things out. And as you look into it as well, you'll see a lot of the same names in the writing staff. Like there was a grinder of you get a TV show, you get an action figure, you slap it on some T-shirts, and you make it's like Underpants Gnomes. You just make the money. You're just like cranking stuff out.
It's like what was that?
Underpants Gnomes. No, from South Park.
I have no idea what you're. Oh, it's a South Park reference.
It's a South Park reference. Sorry.
I didn't catch it. I have no idea what that is.
See, step 1 was steal underpants. Step 2 they didn't know, but step 3 was make money. Yeah. So, all right, moving on. Moving on. Yeah,
we'll talk about South Park at some point. Maybe next episode.
Yeah. So this one surprised me a little bit, but as I kind of reviewed this, it was a little undeniable. my number 5 is Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. So it's a show that I don't know if it really holds up. I tried watching an episode or two and I was like, I'm not the core demographic anymore for this show. And I initially also dismissed this because it was an existing property in some ways, but the song isn't. And so I went into it with an open mind saying, okay, I'm not going to dismiss this because I'll say right now, like, I want Ghostbusters on my list and I didn't put it on there because it's an existing song. It's the song that was Ray Parker's thing that they just did for the theme song. And so I'm like, it's not a theme song. I can see that, yeah. Like, you used it, and it's great, and I love it, but it's just the song from the movie.
Right, know? Exactly.
Alvin and the Chipmunks, not the case. Alvin and the Chipmunks is so weird, too, dude, right? Because, like, we're talking about 58, 59.
Right.
Grammy Award-winning Christmas song.
Yes. That
this singer-songwriter guy who had written songs for other musicians in the 50s, had bought a tape player. It's exactly what you think when you hear the Chipmunks. You're like, did someone just buy a tape player and mess with their voice and be like, oh, Chipmunks? Like,
right. Someone figured
exactly
it
what
out.
happened. Yeah, like, that's exactly what happened. This dude, Ross Bagdasarian, like, buys a tape player in 57 and realizes he could boost the speed on his own voice and make it sound like a chipmunk. And he comes up with this concept where he's going to sing Witch Doctor. He makes this song called Witch Doctor. He puts it out. It's a huge novelty hit. He follows it up with the Christmas thing. And he has this like little side story or canon of like, he's David Seville. He starts going by David Seville after this, you know, like he's David Seville and he's made these chipmunks, which are also his voice, you know?
Right. Exactly. That's interesting. I didn't know that Witch Doctor came before the Christmas song.
Thing. Yep. So Witch Doctor was proof of concept. Christmas, three Grammys. Like,
oh my
insane.
God.
Yeah. So he creates this little pocket industry in the 60s where he puts out a bunch of these things, right? And then he dies in 72. No. He dies in 72. I feel bad
for laughing now.
50 something. No, it's fine.
It was so unexpected.
He created this really weird, unique business, and then he passes away and leaves the business to his kids. And his son, Ross Jr., takes up the mantle. He goes to law school. He finishes law school, and then he takes up the mantle, basically, that his dad left. So what you see is like, that's why there's a gap between the Alvin and the Chipmunks hits in the late 50s and early 60s, and then all of a sudden, 15, 20 years later, there's a cartoon, is like, the guy died, and his son a few years, like once he finished college, was like, okay, I'm going into the family chipmunk business. And it's him and his wife, dude. Like, what? His son and his daughter-in-law. That's exactly what the Chipettes are.
That's amazing.
Right? It's so crazy. So, yeah, but so on the theme song itself, so I'm listening to this and I'm like, this is so cool that it's just like a family business of like, my dad sped up a tape and 50 years later we're making CGI movies with David Cross, you know, like it's incredible. This is so good. But the theme song for this thing, it feels like Van Halen's Jump. It's got that synth hit at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it starts off, you see them at a stadium and they're performing on stage and everybody's freaking out. And I remember sitting there like, yeah, I'm in the crowd. I'm seeing the Chipmunks.
It gets you pumped for sure.
Oh, it was the perfect like 80s synth rock pop jam. And it does the thing that you were talking about where it's like, it shouts out the main characters, right? Alvin, Simon, Theodore, doot, 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 doot. Like,
it copies it, it brings in that synth line.
They jingled the heck out of it.
They also spell chipmunk in the song too.
They spell chipmunk.
That's educational.
Right.
That's good.
But so you walk in there, doop, doop, dooping and snapping your fingers, and you know the main characters' things and names, and you're off to the races. Yeah. So, solid play in setting that thing up. Very cool. Yeah.
I'm really glad that you mentioned it because I adored that cartoon and I love that song, and it initially was on like a rough draft of my top 5, but eventually got bumped off. Like it would probably be like my number 6, honestly.
Yeah.
It was really hard to pick between that and Silverhawks for me.
And I have a 6 that I'm hoping is on your list.
That'd be awesome.
I want to talk about it anyway, but I have the exact same thing here where I'm like, I can't believe it's not on my list. So you go do your number 4.
I was almost like, we should do a top 10, but then the episode would be 2.5 hours long. Okay. So I have one that I would kind of be a little bit surprised if it wasn't also on your list. So let's see what happens. But my number 4 ended up being Chippendale Rescue Rangers. So
yeah,
I love Chippendale Rescue Rangers. I watch the original cartoon episodes with my kids. It is one that I do think still kind of stands up.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's incredible. I love everything about it. A lot of those, 80s, early 90s Disney spin-offs and cartoons are amazing. This one, I think this one and one other one that I'm sure we'll also talk about really do stand up. And they, say what you want about the new Chippendale movie. It's kind of a love it or hate it thing, but the property itself having the staying power to result in a live action / cartoon animated over live action movie in this day and age, I think shows the staying power of the brand. And the song itself, like, it goes through a number of different themes. It's got a very kind of starts out with like a creepy spy sort of feel to it, and then
makes you feel dark, and then lifts you,
and then it lifts you.
They're here to save the day.
Yes,
they're rescue rangers.
Exactly.
They're gonna save everything. Yeah.
So I love the theme song. I find myself humming it, whistling it, singing it throughout the course of my day, at least probably once or twice a week, if not more often, if something reminds me of it or we've watched it recently. But solid entry.
Yeah, so it's not on my list. It's one of the ones that was and then got bumped as I kind of slated things around. But I have regrets about bumping it. I feel like I went back and revisited it again just before we recorded, and I'm like, man, maybe this goes back on because it is so strong. I think part of my hesitation is I do have another one from that sort of docket of those shows that's on my list, and I was like, man, I maybe it's unfairly like it shouldn't be restricted to like if there can only be one Disney song on this final list. I think so. Like I have to come to terms with the fact that it could be more Disney dominated than I anticipated, but like they owned it, man. Like they killed it.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at it. I like Gummy Bears too. Like Gummy Bears had a great song. Tailspin came a little later. I think that's technically a 90s song, as is Darkwing Duck. But like, think about that. Like just hit after hit after hit. They were a theme song cranking. So it's a very strong pick, and I have a feeling that I'm going to be arguing to keep that on the list over some of my own. But we'll see, because like I said, I am feeling some regret.
You won't have to argue with me.
Yeah,
it's a strong pick.
So my number 4 is Inspector Gadget. So Inspector Gadget is a bad show. It's not a good show. If you go back and watch this show, the guy stinks.
That's one that doesn't stand up, I guess.
It doesn't hold up. The guy is a bumbling fool. His niece and their dog has to save the day every single time.
Yep.
And the actual like mysteries and stuff, it's not great. Like I don't know, the transforming car and all the gadgets. I mean,
that's what made
it's
it
in
cool.
the name. That's what made it cool. Like when that car changes from the van to the like hot roddy kind of police car thing that guy has that fool in a trench coat does not drive that car. Like no way. But his niece had that like watch that she could do everything on, and the dog Brain had like things that came out of his collar.
Yeah, he had the little
super
walkie-talkie.
Super fun.
Yeah.
But it's not a great show.
Man.
There's a thing to get into real quick here. First of all, the vibe of it, it literally is just says the name of the show. It's Inspector Gadget. But then you get the rally cry, kind of like the Rescue Rangers thing, where you're like, go Gadget go.
Exactly. You get the go Gadget go.
And when you're sitting on the couch ready for the cartoon, you're like, yeah, go Gadget, go. You know, like it's almost like hey ho, let's go Ramones level of like, here's an easy thing for you to say that you're just gonna be jazzed about.
Yeah.
So there's some weirdness behind this and a lot of other songs that were written at this time that I want to just touch on real quick. So there was this duo, Chaim Saban and Shuki Levy, these like Middle Eastern guys who moved to the States. They're musicians, they're songwriters. Saban Entertainment winds up being like a huge thing. The guy makes a buttload of money. But they wrote a ton of these themes, including this one. Mm-hmm. However, it came to light years later as they churned out hit after hit, show after show, that they were hiring like hourly paid ghostwriters and such to do this. And the Super Mario Super Show is another example of that. They never credited those people. They didn't have to. They basically bought the time and rights for a jingle writer and then used that and held the royalties and claimed it as their own.
Wow.
And so we don't really know who wrote the Inspector Gadget theme song or the theme song for a bunch of other big shows of that time. Just as context. So like when a show airs, when a cartoon episode would air back in the day, you're sitting down, you got your kicks, and the thing comes on. The composer would make $500, let's say, about $500 per airing. So every time it ran, they would make that money. And so you think like, God, these theme songs we're talking about are just burned into your brain. You could make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, background music, you get paid less, but there's still money in all of that. And so these guys would just pay out a couple $100. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Inside Llewyn Davis, but it comes up in that film as well. Like he's a musician who's down on his luck. He goes in, Justin Timberlake is sitting there in the studio, and he like sits with him and a couple other session players, and you can either like sign away your rights for $200 for the day,
right,
or you can get royalty payments if it becomes a hit. And the chances of a jingle or something becoming anything are hit or miss.
Right.
And so in the movie, spoiler alert, he signs away the rights, and then by the end of the movie, the thing he co-writes with Justin Timberlake is massive, and he has nothing for it.
Yep.
And so that's the story of most of these folks. So there will be a few of these on our lists here that I feel like it's almost dampened a little bit. Look, it's legal. Like it wasn't like any real bad business, but it's just a bummer, you know, like we don't know who the vocalist is on the Super Mario's. Who did the rap? We don't know. Like no one knows who really wrote that. The credits have Captain Lou Albano and Danny Wells, the guy who played Luigi.
Yeah, doing a different thing altogether almost.
Yeah. And like the opening, if you look at the liners or whatever, it says that those guys did the Mario plumber rap. There's no way Captain Lou Albano did that. They hired some random dude and he wrote the song and he did the vocals and they paid him a couple bucks and that was the end of it. So my tangent's over, but Inspector Gadget, even though we don't know who you are, thank you for writing such a like a James Bondy kind of Get Smart.
Very spy
Makes me
movie.
think of Get Smart. Yeah. It's a very, very fun song, and it's a hook, man. Like, my criteria for a lot of these is if you said the name of the show, could I sing the song to you almost in full? How much of it could I sing to you?
Right.
And I did the whole Inspector Gadget song. It's burned in my brain. So that's my number 4.
And that's definitely one that would have been on my list of honorable mentions, but I couldn't find a spot for it in my top 5. I think because not that there's anything necessarily wrong with the instrumental or near instrumental where all you get is the name of the song and a chant or something, or the name of the show and a chant. But I felt like a fully fledged, full set of lyrics song would have been more appropriate to get the honor. And that's just kind of how I approached it. But there are plenty of instrumental or near instrumental theme songs that deserve recognition and deserve to be. Inspector Gadget is one that definitely deserves to be on the list.
Yeah.
It definitely would have been one of my honorable mentions. So good pick. It was one of my favorite shows. I had a VHS tape chock full of Inspector Gadget episodes.
Probably with Pizza Hut commercials on it, like it just, I love those
man,
VHS.
I wish I could find it.
Yeah.
The commercials are sometimes the best part of those old
Time
VHS
capsule.
tapes of movies and TV shows recorded off of TV. A lot of those VHS tapes just don't work anymore. It's been so long that the magnetic particles have been demagnetized and it just doesn't work anymore. Those things do not have a long shelf life. So there goes all my Christmas memories and birthdays and stuff like that from my childhood demagnetized. Oh well, should have digitized it sooner.
Yeah.
Anyways, so as we have both kind of already hinted at and alluded to, I also had some qualms about putting this and Chippendale Rescue Rangers on my list, but I think they are both different enough and so deserving. So I had to include DuckTales, because how do you not include DuckTales?
No.
Just such a banger of a song. It starts out right from the get-go with such a bop. You're already bobbing your head before it's just that bass line, and you know what's about to happen. You know what's coming.
It sets the scene. The lyrics set the scene.
And you get so much information. Life is like a hurricane. Yep. That's beautiful.
Here in Duckburg, right? We know where we are. Okay. Things are crazy. Here's the location.
Race cars, and then, lasers, air. So there's some action about to happen.
All the scenarios are coming. Yeah. This is my number 1, so I'm fully backing you, by the way.
Way.
Yeah, that's my number 1. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Good. So good. Good. Let's do it.
Deserving number 1. Wow.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
That's fine.
Well, then I'm sure we'll talk more about it, so I won't go into too much more
let's
detail.
Let's do it now.
I mean, let me just so good. You have the key change. You have so much action going on. You have sort of a little like bridge, if you want to call it that. Because most of these don't necessarily have the whole like verse chorus structure to them, but the whole danger lurks behind you, like that part of the song brings you into the key change, and it's just you're as a kid especially, you're about to do backflips by the time we come back to the DuckTales, and the key change hits, and it's an even higher key now. That song may have 2 key changes in it now that I'm thinking about it. I'll have to go back and see, but it is. I mean, it starts out such a banger, and by the end of it, you've got the whole woo, like, how that whole thing where they call it the millennial whoop, where every single song has that, oh, like every song in the past, every pop song, I should say, in the past like 15 years has that dip in it. And I think that this is a stupid theory of mine, but I think the origin of the millennial whoop and why it is so ingrained in pop music is DuckTales.
Yes.
DuckTales.
I love this.
Oh. It's the origin of the millennial whoop is DuckTales.
I do love
I said
that.
it. You heard it here first, or maybe not, but that's my unnecessary theory.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. I'm backing this now. That I think that this is because it is a defining theme song. That's why I put it at the top of this, because it might not be. There's another one on my list that's my own personal favorite, but like this is probably the most undeniable. Like the dude from Panic at the Disco performed it on Jimmy Fallon. Like they did a request night. They did an audience request night, and this was what it is. It's such a cultural phenomenon.
It is.
They remade it when they relaunched the show. The show itself has such great history, both the video game and the like length, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie, like the length of how those characters have kind of taken on. My kid loves this show, the old one and the new one. You know. And it's iconic enough that they kept the bones of it in the remake. And I think they did a very good job with it.
The remake's good.
This is another situation. We know who wrote this, so it's not as questionable as the other one. It's this guy, Mark Muller. He was paid just over $1,000 to do this. It was like a sit-down session thing.
Oh wow!
And would only get the money. So this is the skeevier side of the Disney deal. It's like he'd only get the money if they chose to use it. So like he signed away the rights. I believe as I read it, he signed away the rights.
Man,
but like did it not knowing whether it would air or not, and if it didn't air, he wouldn't get the check for $1,200 or whatever.
Imagine.
But in theory, he also is on record saying that it took him an hour to write the thing. You know, it just like came right.
Are you serious?
There's a funny similar story, totally unrelated to cartoons of the 80s here, but there's a similar story with Big Bang Theory. I don't know if you watched that show at all, but another great hook of a theme song written and performed by Bare Naked Ladies, by Ed from Bare Naked Ladies. And he put off, like somebody signed him up to pitch the theme song, and he didn't even really necessarily want to do it. He put it off, and then he realized like he is supposed to be on a conference call where he plays back the song in an hour, and he's like takes a shower and he thinks of that theme song. He comes up with the whole thing in like 15 minutes in a shower, jumps on the call with Chuck Lorre and sings the thing, and this like sold, and it's like one of the biggest theme songs of the past decade, basically. So this like in an hour's worth of time, the guy made. When's the last time you made $1,000 in an hour? You know, like that's pretty great.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, I kind of wish you got the royalty payments, because
that's
one
rough.
of the greatest things of all time.
That is rough.
Also worth noting that the same guy who sings DuckTales sings the Rescue Rangers theme song.
Right.
Always worked with the same dude, and the pianist and like the keyboardist was this guy Greg Karukas, who was in smooth jazz group The Rippingtons alongside Kenny G at one point. Yeah, a little jazzy background, it's got a swinging beat. Man.
It does.
Like the core of this
it doesn't have a
kids
rock
would call it a
beat.
bop. No, they'd call it a bop.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
It has that swing to it for sure.
Iconic song. Everybody can sing this. You know all the words except there's one part. Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales. I didn't know what those words were when I was a kid.
Right.
I remember looking them up years ago, but I'm like, daring, do bad, and good luck. Like it rolls off the tongue, but it doesn't sound. It sounds like word soup.
I I sang the syllables, but I didn't know what the words were.
What you were saying. Yeah. Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was. I don't know.
Not ponytails.
But see, like,
not cottontails.
As a kid, you don't know all words yet. So, you just figure it's some word that you've not learned yet.
Correct.
That was my thinking. I was kind of a dumb kid, though. So, anyway.
All right. So that's your number 3, my number 1.
Yeah. So that's an interesting gap, too.
Yeah. So
what's your number 3?
My number 3 it was a late addition, never came up in the Discord, and I didn't think of it. And my wife said something to me about it yesterday as we were talking, and I was like, that's this. I sang the whole thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And you haven't heard it in 20 years.
I don't know where, I don't know where I would watch this thing. And it's skewed. I think part of it is skewed a little younger. Like, we're talking about primarily shows that I watched when I was 9 or 10 at this point, like 8, 9, 10, whatever. Like the one I'm about to say, I was watching before I went to like first grade. Like, I was at my babysitter's house, and I adored this show, and I feel like it set me up for Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh my God.
And all of like the fantasy stuff that I would get into and love through up until today. And I'm talking about David the Gnome. And I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows David the Gnome, but I feel like most people, if you say it, you're like, wow, wait, David the Gnome.
That's 80s?
That's 80s.
I would have.
You're going to make me question this. Hold on. Yeah. I'm sure I looked this up, but let me just Google it real quick to make sure I'm not blowing this. Because it started off as a Spanish show, and then was translated to English. Yeah, so premiered in Spanish in 85 and in English in 86.
Okay. Wow.
Look around you.
Yeah.
There are many things. Dude, I did the whole thing in my kitchen. Are you kidding me?
I used to watch that show. I watched on Nickelodeon, though.
Yeah. They translated it and ran it on Nickelodeon.
But that was 87, you said? 86?
They said, I think it started airing in 87, 88 on Nickelodeon. Yeah.
That's so early.
I know.
We didn't even have cable at that point. So it just, I caught reruns on like whatever it would have been, Nick Jr. or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, the thing played through the 90s. And you could make, I'm fine making the argument that it's a 90s show because that's when we experienced it. But 85, it premiered initially, and in English, 87.
That's wild. Good pick.
It's so good, dude. It's wistful.
Yeah.
It feels different than the other theme songs that we're talking about here. Partially because I think it doesn't have, there's no merchandising. It's not looking to do the thing that we're talking about. It's kind of unique.
And it's not a rock song or a pop song either.
No, it's not crescendoing you for an action. It's like sit down and I'm going to tell you a story. Like, come around the fire, and there's beauty in the world, and I have a story to tell you. And there's trolls and wizards and fairy kings. There's birds that talk. There's fish that sing. If your heart is true. Like, it makes me swell. Like, the writing of it is gorgeous. It's got sweeping string arrangements and everything. And the show itself, like, I don't know if I could watch this with my kid right now, because there's moments like when Swift gets caught in the bear trap, I lost my mind.
Yeah, there's some scary stuff.
And those trolls were intense, dude. Like, those stinky trolls, man. So
it kind of reminds me, it's got like a similar vibe to The Last Unicorn, that movie. Have you seen?
Yes.
Because that soundtrack, it's just like kind of in that same category of, like, that was the band America, along with like an orchestra doing the music for that.
For Last Unicorn?
Yeah. So
that's cool. I didn't know America did that. That's awesome.
But so it just, that there's a connection there somewhere, because I was the Last Unicorn kid. I used to watch that all the time, and I would cry at the end every single time, but I was like 6, so I didn't know why I was crying. But yeah, there's got to be some kind of connection there, or they're at least they're close in theme and, loosely Tolkien-esque, if you want to go there with it. But
it's gnomes and elves and pixies and it's all of that stuff. Yeah, it's all
love it.
It's a great show.
Excellent pick. My goodness.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Number 2.
Well, we've talked about it already a couple times.
Oh, okay.
I felt like this is very different from most of the other themes that we've talked about. And I'm not going to mince words too much. It's Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Oh, boy.
First of all, it is, I'm sure someone will correct me, but I couldn't think of another rap song.
Yeah.
That, at least as far as the cartoon shows that we were watching.
Right.
So there's that aspect to it. It's very early for a rap theme song. It uses a familiar tune. It starts out with the fanfare for the game. So if you played the game, you already are instantly connected to it. And it's just so fun and so cool to hear a rap. Now, I probably couldn't rap the whole thing, but I could do most of it. I didn't try. But, I don't even know what else to say about it. I didn't put a lot of research or thought into the song itself. I just knew that it's insanely catchy. I love the fact that they used the kind of primary Super Mario Brothers game theme as the backdrop to the song.
So smart.
And dude just raps over it and kills it, by the way. I wish we knew who it was.
Yeah, I know. I don't know who that guy is. Find that guy. It's obviously iconic enough to have been featured in the Super Bowl recently. Like, it was in the ad for the new Mario movie.
Yeah.
So like they know that there's a throwback. There's like a good connection there enough for like people like us to hear that. Kids heard that and they're like, okay, yeah, hip hop. I mean, hip hop's 50 years old and we love hip hop now, And for us, we're like TV cartoon shows from our youth, like
exactly.
It's a solid choice.
I love it. Love everything about it.
All right. So my number 2 is one that probably personally would be my number 1, except number 2 because I thought DuckTales was just so undeniable across the board. However, I could make the same case for here. So I'm of two minds.
Okay.
My number 2 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is like the movie came after this, right? So initially, just like Ghostbusters, like in my head, I was like, this song is so good. And it's been put in iterations of other video games and shows and things elsewhere. This must have existed beforehand. I was like, it's got to be like Ghostbusters where I'm misremembering things, but I'm not. And Ninja Turtles was a kind of black and white, dark, bleak looking comic book.
Yeah.
That they pitched over to be a toy line.
Yep.
A toy line first. And Playmates was like, we will give you the toy line because there's a lot here, but you got to go get a TV deal.
Yeah.
Like, you lock
That's
a
what
TV
sells
deal
the
for me.
toys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we will do this if you get a TV deal. And so they take that over. They land the TV deal. I bought all the toys. I mean, that was like every birthday present, graduation, whatever allowance, like everything went into Ninja Turtles toys.
100%.
So I mean, it does the thing we talked about. It gets you jazzed. Mm-hmm. It runs you through all the characters. It tells you all about the characters.
Yeah, you get a backstory. Splinter taught them to be ninja teams. So it's like, you get a backstory. And not
Michelangelo's the party dude.
He's the party dude. You not only get introduced to the characters, but you actually get snippets of their personality in the song.
Yeah.
It says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 100 times probably.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
If someone were to write that down to you as a songwriter, Adam, and they're like, come up with a song that says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you'd figure it out, but you'd look at that and be like, this is more word pasta. I don't know what, like, it's a what? It's a Teenage Mutant Turtle? Hero Turtles in Japan? I don't.
It was England,
what
right?
is
or
this?
Europe?
Something like that. Yeah. Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles instead of Ninja.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact about this one was just talking about Chuck Lorre, who did Big Bang Theory. He's an iconic now, legendary sitcom writer. Mm-hmm. He wrote on Muppet Babies. He wrote on a bunch of these cartoons back in the day. Mm-hmm. He wrote this song, Adam.
Are you serious?
He wrote this song.
No way.
And it wasn't well known until, did you ever watch Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt? It was like a Netflix show that was super buzzy back in like 2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. And it was a big throwback nostalgia show. And in it, they talk about the Ninja Turtles theme song and how amazing it is. And they say in it, someone who, like, I think Kimmy says, like, whoever wrote that should get like $1 billion. And someone holds up a sign on the sitcom show saying, Chuck Lorre wrote that song. And no one believed it. The internet went crazy in like 2017, 2018. It, like, Twitter flared up because they were like, no way. The guy who created Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men wrote the Ninja Turtles song back in 87. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. Wow. And it's amazing. It's the song of my childhood.
Absolutely.
I was a turtle nut.
It is so much the song of my childhood that it's my number one.
Number one, yeah, it is. It has to be.
In bold. You see, I'm holding up my phone. In bold.
Has to be. Yeah.
Number one. With a bullet. With a katana. Number one.
You were a turtle kid too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything turtles.
Yeah. All right. So we know my number one was DuckTales.
Yeah, so we're done. We're done with our individual.
Yeah, now we get to the tough part.
Now we break it down.
And the hard thing is that you didn't put Muppet Babies on yours, and I didn't put Muppet Babies on mine. And Muppet Babies is awesome, but that's fine.
That is a strong. It's a strong mention,
one, but it doesn't need to be on here. All right, let's get to brass tacks on our 5 here and hash this out, and then we can roll through any honorable mentions. How about that?
Well, we've got a lot of crossover, so
we do. All right, so I think let's start at the top, even because I think
that might be easier.
Ninja Turtles and DuckTales are 1 and 2, I would assume.
I will agree with that.
And
I don't have a strong opinion. I had DuckTales at 3, but I don't. That number 2, number 3, that was really tough for me. And honestly, the only thing that bumped Super Mario Brothers Super Show up to number 2 over DuckTales was just how unique it was that it was a rap song.
Yeah. So the hip hop aspect of it is really cool. Actually, it's a good call.
But I'm 100% on TMNT and DuckTales being 1 and 2, not necessarily in that order, but
no, I think that's the order. I think it's Ninja Turtles. I think Ninja Turtles, like, that song defined that brand.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think if that song was in either of the movies. I don't think it was.
It wasn't in the live action movies.
No, I don't think so. But it was in all, like, you had that theme run through at least the arcade game and onwards from there.
And Heroes instantly recognizable.
Yeah. Was like in everything. You push start, you know?
You come back from commercial and it goes da 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 before the show comes back in. That's the thing.
That's 6 notes. Yeah, so good. And it's all 5 of them are the same note.
Is that the Millennial Loop too? It's not, is it?
No.
No, it's not. DuckTales is the Millennial Loop.
let's say Ninja Turtles is 1, DuckTales are 2.
That's solid.
No argument there. All right.
Very
so
solid.
Then what's left from my list is David the Gnome, Inspector Gadget, and Alvin the Chipmunks. You have Silverhawks, Mario. I'm blanking on your number 4.
And Chippendale was number 4 for me.
Chippendale. I feel like Chippendale's got to make this list. So
well, there's some merit to the similarities to DuckTales and not necessarily having the 2 Disney spin-off cartoon shows on the same list.
Yeah, I'm second guessing myself there. It's so good.
But it's good. It's
really
not worth
good. Penalizing that one because
Right.
it's another Disney song that has the same guy singing on it and whatever. Like, it's banging, you know? Like, I think it's got to be. So let's put that as like a soft pencil. Like that's somewhere on this list.
Yeah.
I could do without Inspector Gadget. Like I think it's a fun, iconic song, but I don't know if it needs to be on this list.
Yeah, and honestly, I could do like I wouldn't fight for Silverhawks to be on the top 5.
Okay.
I'm not fighting for it really. It's great. It was more of just a kind of a just, hey, remember Silver? I had to talk about Silverhawks, and I thought it deserved more than an honorable mention.
Now, the reason I didn't put Mario on my list was because when I looked it up, it was 89, and I was like, that's
fair,
on
though.
the threshold. But it feels very 80s because when
Right.
I'm looking at our lineup for the next episode for the 90s, it's a different vibe.
Yes.
It's a different thing.
Very different.
This is an 80s show. It's a child of the 80s. The hip hop influence is very 80s hip hop.
Right.
And so I'm fine with it being on here. Like the criteria side of it aside, like I think that it's totally worth being on this list. And I think you're right. I think it's iconic enough that it stays on. So
You're making my arguments for me, which I
am. I know. I mean, we're buds, so we're supposed to fight, and we never do. I think I'm fine with Rescue Rangers and Mario. And where what I'm trying to figure out then is if Rescue Rangers and Mario stay somewhere in the 3 to 5. How do I feel about dropping Alvin or David the Gnome? And you have an affinity for Alvin.
Yeah,
and
it almost made my list.
Yeah, I feel like it should be that.
I would also make the argument for Inspector Gadget too.
Yeah.
Like my only reason for that not making it is because I just felt like there's more effort put into a song with fully fledged lyrics. But if there's one that deserves to be there that's semi or mostly instrumental, it's that one.
Yeah, so Inspector Gadget, part of my problem with it, other than the show, is not great anymore. Like,
which is not part of the
problem
criteria. It's about the song, man.
It almost feels more like a jingle. I don't know why I feel that way, but like as I sat with it, there's a part of me that makes it feel more like a jingle. And maybe it's because it's not fleshed out lyrically. It feels like a jingle and less like a theme song. So that's kind of why I'm a little more dismissive of it, because I do think you're right that there's a criteria level to that where I'm like, yeah, it could. It doesn't fit with these others. And honestly, neither does David the Gnome sonically fit with the others, because it's not a Saturday morning cartoon. It's not jazzing you up. It's like story time. I think I'm fine with Alvin. There's something about David the Gnome. You know what it is? I think I just need to go watch David the Gnome. Like, I think what it is I just need to go watch that show again, because it is a very good show, and I feel like it has to hold up. Like, I think it's kind of like the cell shaded nature of Wind Waker, where it's like, because it was this beautiful hand painted, like fantasy story Spanish show. Like, it probably all holds up very well. The stories were very adult.
Yeah, I would even sort of compare it to like My Neighbor Totoro and those like the Miyazaki that like it's got that kind of vibe to it as well, which is just like high quality animation.
Yeah.
That's a solid point. Like I was gonna be ready to make the argument for Inspector Gadget, but Alvin and the Chipmunks, that song is so strong though.
I think Alvin's got a hold. So my head says we go not in this order, but Mario, Rescue Rangers, Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Okay.
So if we're given that, I do think Alvin is probably 5.
Yeah. That's where I would put it.
Mario 3, Rescue Rangers 4.
That's kind of what I just had jotted down as a rough draft here.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Super Mario Brothers Super Show being number 3, though? That's pretty high on the list. And that means you're dropping 2 of yours, and I'm only dropping 1 of mine.
I'm fine with that, because like I said, like mine, David the Gnome, while I think it's gorgeous, is a nostalgia play. And I think I had held Mario to an unfair standard, and Rescue Rangers, for that matter, to an unfair standard that I'm now looking back and questioning. And
what was your reasoning again for not including Super Mario Brothers?
Because it was like mid.
Oh, that's 89. Right. It was so late in the 80s.
It was late in the 80s, and I'm like, and it's also like part cartoon, part live action. So I was like, I don't know.
No,
but
that's fair.
Song is so good. The song is so good.
But does it deserve number 3 over Alvin and the Chipmunks and Chip and Dale? By the way, we have 2 shows in the top 5 featuring chipmunks. I just thought I would point that out.
That's incredible, by the way. Never dawned on me.
Me either until this very moment.
Why isn't there a shared universe between Chip and Dale and Alvin and the Chipmunks?
I don't know, but out of the top 5,
that's the crossover that I never knew I wanted.
So we've got turtles, ducks, plumbers. Turtles, ducks, plumbers, and then
chipmunks.
Two shows about chipmunks.
I mean, it checks with kids' cartoon shows, and I feel like next in the 90s we're going to delve into some that are a little bit more adult in subject matter. So it makes sense for what we're talking about right now. 80s were dominated by getting parents to spend money on their 8-year-olds.
Right.
So yeah, let's put Rescue Rangers 3, Mario 4.
That feels better to me.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I have a little bristle at like the Disney stack at 2 and 3, but it represents what they were doing, man. Like I said, Gummy Bears was also awesome. Like it, and why would you make a show about gummy bears? But like, it's such a fun song. They cranked it out. Disney knows what's up. So I'm fine with this list. So let's go over it again to make sure. So number 5, Alvin and the Chipmunks. Number 4, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Number 3 is Rescue Rangers, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Number 2 is DuckTales, and number 1 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It feels pretty good.
Yeah.
I know you're bristling at the 2 Disney properties next to each other, but it's either the 2 Disney properties next to each other or the 2 chipmunks shows next to each other.
That's true.
Separated
we should put
by Super Mario Brothers Super Show, which is kind of the odd one out here.
It is, but it's fine. I think, and that's why I think it belongs at 4. Because I do think that it's stronger than Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alvin and the Chipmunks is jamming, but there's something very distinctive about Super Mario Brothers, and it's kind of timeless. And yeah, it does the hip hop thing of sampling the Mario theme. So it's really kind of true to form there. Yeah, I back this list. I think it's solid.
So you don't have too much of an issue with 2 and 3 both being Disney properties.
No, let's do it.
It feels good. We got a high five. We get it. We need a sound effect there, like a bit. Excellent. So then, before we move on to some community submissions?
Yeah, I'm just pulling those up here.
Do you have any honorable mentions that we haven't talked about?
I shouted most of mine out. I mean, Muppet Babies was one that really hurt me because it's such a good song and it does the things that we're talking about. It makes you feel like you're going to go on an adventure, and every episode was different. Ghostbusters, we talked about why.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh is one that it was another late one that hit me. It's kind of David the Gnomie. It's wistful, but it does do that crescendo in some of these other things where it makes you swell right near the end of it. I don't think there's a key change. I'm hearing it in my head, but yeah, those I think those are the big ones. I mean, He-Man and She-Ra. He-Man was big for me. I remember coming home and turning on the TV and expecting He-Man, and it was Barney.
Oh,
like the TV network made a shift at one point, and I lost my mind, dude. I remember thinking the television was broken. I flipped out. But yeah, He-Man and She-Ra were good. It's just like that was like a very narrative thing, right? They talk you through the whole format of it. There's a song, it's great. It just didn't stand out as something that it's not a rally call, it doesn't move you like that.
Right.
What about you? Do you have some honorable mentions?
I think the only one, I mean, I have a few, but I think the only one that I care to bring up at this point is Heathcliff.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's another one that those dudes did. Those two guys.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Saban and Levy. That was we don't know who wrote that. And the other weird thing about Heathcliff is there was an 1980 Heathcliff show with Marmaduke. It was kind of like the Garfield and Friends deal.
Yeah.
And that was Scatman Carruthers, a.k.a. the Scat Cat from Aristocats, a.k.a. the groundskeeper. I'm blanking on his name in The Shining, like the Kubrick film.
Wow.
He did the original Heathcliff. He sang the original Heathcliff song. We know that. Mm-hmm. I don't think we know who did the one that we mainly know, the Heathcliff. Mm-hmm. I don't think we know who actually wrote and performed that one. But that's the really catchy one for me. That's the one that I knew.
The late 50s, sock hop rock feel.
Yeah.
That had the companion show wasn't Marmaduke in that one. It was the
Cadillac Cats.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. They had that really cool one with the roller skates and the headphones on. Yeah, the Cadillac Cats. I think that was awesome. Or the cat. It might be just Catacats. I don't know. They might have been some cute thing. I think it's the Cadillac Cats.
Either way, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's all I really care as far as honorable mentions. So we can talk about. We had so much of a reaction when you put this out there.
We did. There's another one actually, just for this community that I was waiting to see if anybody said anything, and they didn't, and so now I'm gonna have to put it up in there. Do you ever hear of Dinosaucers?
Yes.
Yeah. So Dinosaucers is another Saban and Levy hit, and that was alien carnivores versus alien omnivores. It was basically Transformers, but with dinosaurs.
Exactly. That's what was so
cool
about it.
The song, though, Dinosaurs. Oh, God, it's so good.
That's funny because one that was kind of close, it would probably have been a 7 or 8 on my list, is Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Denver the Last Dinosaur. Was that 80s or 90s, though? It feels 80s.
That was 80s.
Yeah, Denver, the last dinosaur. He's my friend
and a whole lot more. Yeah, it's not so. See, for a dinosaur that plays guitar with some rad shades, the song was a little bit tame.
Yes,
I thought.
Yeah, but he was like a goofy dinosaur. He was like a Scooby-Doo dinosaur.
Yeah,
kind of.
But
yeah, Dinosaurs, they were
serious.
They were going to kill each
business.
other. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So the community shouted out a bunch of great stuff.
A lot.
Here. I think we touched on a good chunk of it. And the tricky thing here is, as I'm looking through it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out what's 80s and what's 90s on this. Because there's a lot. I mean, the 89 to 91 was such a huge, like, burst of animation. Carmen Sandiego is like the Mario Super Show, where it was a little bit of both. It was animated and there was live action, but that's, I mean, rockapella, man.
Yeah, can't compare with rockapella.
Yeah, let's see here. What do we got?
So
Snorks.
Snorks.
Is Snorks 80s or 90s?
I feel like that might even be pre-80s. That might be.
Yeah, I don't know.
Snorks. I'm Googling Snorks.
Yeah, Google the Snorks, please. King of the Hill has got to be. It's 84, man. Yeah, Snorks was fun. Star Wars droids, X-Men. That's a really good one. I think a lot of these are going to be 90s, so we'll revisit this because I'm seeing Daria and Beetlejuice, and there's just, I mean, 90s is going to be hard. Is Garfield and Friends? That feels like an 89 to me.
Yeah, I think that was the late 80s.
Garfield and Friends. If it is, that's a really strong pick. Yeah, 88. Yeah, so Garfield and Friends is a really good shout out for sure, and that's a fun show. I don't know what was up with the Barnyard Friends, like the Barnyard whatever it was with the egg thing and that
Sheldon?
Duck with an inner tube. You know the name. There you go. The duck with the inner tube. Like it. So weird.
It was weird, but for some reason it made sense at the time. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But Thunderdome shouts out both, along with Heathcliff, shouts out Thundercats, Mask, and G.I. Joe.
Mask. Yeah.
And these were good, but I feel like the songs weren't as good as the others that made the lists here. Those were great shows. I was actually really big into Mask. I had a bunch of the toys.
Mask is another Saban and Levy.
Could have probably
crazy, dude. They were
one.
behind everything. They were behind so many of these things. Yeah.
So we've got Transformers, Voltron. I was into Voltron. I was really into Voltron, but I don't even remember the song. It must not have had a very memorable song.
Yeah, someone said Dennis the Menace at one point, which I don't even really remember.
I do, and it plays in my head a lot. See,
really?
That's one that is similar to Inspector Gadget. The song is just Dennis the Menace with a bunch of saxophone.
I don't know,
and that's it.
So much saxophone.
Yeah, it's so much saxophone. It's like almost the entire song is like one long saxophone solo. It's a great song, but
yeah, G.I. Joe.
Yeah, because we shouted out both 80s and 90s, so some of these are definitely 90s.
Yeah, everything else I'm seeing is 90s by my math. So we'll revisit some of these next time.
Definitely.
Too. X-Men. I wish I was cool enough to watch X-Men at that point. I didn't find out about X-Men or really care about X-Men until I was in like middle school, high school.
Yeah, like, these guys early awesome. 90s though.
Yeah.
So really good stuff. I think we landed on a really, really solid high five. And
I agree.
I cannot wait. I'm so glad that we decided to do a 2-part here because the 90s it's just such a unique decade for media in general.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. But I think we're rounding out the 80s here pretty well.
Yep.
Any closing thoughts?
I don't know. Paisanos. This has been a really good episode of Retro Groove.
I agree. So we need a new theme song for the show that
I'm not doing.
I wonder if I can
plumber rap
80s up.
Yeah.
I'll try to find a way to 80s up the intro. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Because I don't play the sax. I mean, I did in middle school, but only for like 2 years, and I didn't learn anything.
Yeah. Nice.
I'll figure it out. I'll figure out something to do.
Okay. Cool.
Or I'll rap over it or something. I'll get Dan to rap over it. Dan's good at like. He's busy though. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll figure something out. See, I'm putting myself on the spot here. I'll figure it out. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Retro Groove. We will return our very next episode with part 2, where we will high five the top 5 1990s cartoon show theme songs. Hope you tune in for that one. That one's going to be... That's going to be tough.
Oh my God.
So
Gotta catch them all.
Because then we got Nickelodeon coming in now.
Oh, they come in strong, dude. And like I said, you have grown-ups watching cartoons.
Yep.
Then you have... Oh my God.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be really... It's going to be tough.
I'm going to do this. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Liam. This was really, really fun. Thank you, listener, for listening to Retro Groove. We are part of the RetroLogic family of podcasts. You can find us on Discord on the RetroLogic server. You can also find us on Twitter at RetroGroove_pod. Come and hang out with us on Twitter. Tell us what your top 5 would have been, what songs we completely forgot about, and give us some suggestions for 90s cartoon theme songs. We'd be happy to hear them and talk about them on the show. With that, we will see y'all next time.
Later.
Enjoy your voyage. Enjoy your voyage.
We're Retro Groove, and music's our game. What's the show about? It's all in the name. We're a blast from the past with nothing to prove, so get the history lesson when you're hooked on the groove. Hooked on the groove. Alright. We got Adam and Liam, and sometimes a guest. The professors don't mess, so come test the best. All genres, all types, no style we disapprove. So expand your mind and get hooked on the groove. Hooked on the groove. Yo. Hooked on the groove. On the groove. On the groove. On the groove. On the groove.